Welcome to Brand Builders TV. Deep dive topics, tools and resources brought to you by global thought leaders from within the Brand Builders Club. This show gives you access to the strategies that you can use to move forward with ease and flow in every area of your life and business. In today's show, Gayle is going to share her tips and resources for what to do when things go wrong and appear out of your control. During this 4-episode Lost for Words series, we will look at what to do in this situation and how to rebuild. In fact, how to rise from the ashes like the proverbial phoenix. Learn it, model it, and get shit done. Let's go.
So, hello and welcome to the very first episode of Lost for Words, which is part of a series actually. So this is the first episode that we're going to do in this series, which is all about what happens when things go wrong. So we're talking about beating the odds here. Sometimes in our businesses, if you are a business entrepreneur or even if you're a corporate professional, sometimes things don't go the way that you really want them to. So first and foremost, who am I to be even talking to you about this? I'm Gayle Edwards and I'm known as the personal brand disruptor. In some circles, they even call me the messaging mentor. So I'm all about words. I'm all about people being able to articulate their messages confidently and congruently. But also, I'm a realist. I'm a real person. I'm someone who has been running my business now for 21 years. Yay! Next year is my 21st birthday as an entrepreneur. And you can imagine in that time, it hasn't always been perfect. I've got to be honest. There have been times when things have gone wrong because that is part and parcel of running a business. There have been times when I have not been able to get up off the floor, when I have been quite literally lost for words. So what happens if your livelihood depends literally on the words you say? What do you do? And that's what we're going to explore in this series. What happens when things go wrong and how you can put things right. And I'm going to be over the next 4 weeks talking about some tips, some tricks even, and some hacks that can, if you're there right now, that can help you really elevate and bring yourself back up. The bounce back factor, the bounceability, I like to call it. Okay, so what happened to me? Let me tell you what happened to me and how it affected my business. So, as I said, I've been in business for 21 years or nearly 21 years. And I had a very successful, before that, I know I don't look old enough. When I tell you these figures and you start to do your calculations, you're going to say, there's no way, she's not old enough. But I had worked for over 15 years in corporate. I had worked marketing, communications, PR, sales, the whole kit and caboodle. There was a time, would you believe, when it was one person doing all of those jobs. Okay, we didn't have a whole sales department or a whole PR department. And marketing, that was like, well, that's just about an extension of PR and sales, isn't it? So it was literally all done by one person. And that one person was usually me. And then as those disciplines became more of a skill set within companies, I found myself towards the end of my corporate career heading up those departments. So I had quite a good pedigree. So that when I became an entrepreneur, when I, had what I call my road to Damascus moment in 2000, I kind of knew what I was going to do. I was going to go and do what I had been doing for many years, but just doing it on a consultancy freelance basis. And for a while, for a good few years, that served me well. And then I discovered coaching. Oh my gosh, I discovered coaching and training, and that was it. That was it. I was literally on a roll. And I thought it was always going to be like that. Of course, people are always going to want to know how to do things, aren't they? And I'm going to be the one that's going to help them with the how to. Well, why is that going to change? What I didn't really account for was that I was going to change. So whilst people still needed what they needed, I changed. And I changed in a way that made me want different things and to do things in a different kind of way. You know, that was really, I'd say, probably the first inklings of the disruptoring me, put it that way. Well, that certainly wasn't the first rumblings. I think I've always known that, but it was certainly the first rumblings of the disruptor becoming a part of my business. And as I changed and started to turn down opportunities, but also started to flake out of some things as well, my business changed. My life around me changed. People changed. I'm not saying that my marriage failed as a result of my business, but me changing definitely contributed to that, you know, and my husband and I grew apart. And then the unthinkable happened, something that I never thought would happen. We separated. And I stopped. And literally overnight, it feels like now looking back, though I'm sure it was longer than that, my whole business changed. I went from having a really thriving, successful business, being very well known in the areas that I was in, or, you know, networking was just part of my DNA. And suddenly it all stopped. I didn't want to go out. I felt ashamed. I felt embarrassed. How could I fail at something, you know, that most people are able to get right? That's how I felt. You know, everyone else was happy in their relationships, and there was I talking to people about living their best life, and I couldn't live mine. And so I stopped my speaking engagements. I used to have a keynote speech which was called Bringing Yourself to Work. It was a speech that I used to do in corporates, which was all about authenticity and integrity and being real and not wearing that mask in the corporate office. And suddenly I felt that I couldn't. Who was I to talk about that stuff? Who was I when my personal life had failed, crashed around my ears? And that's a hard place to be in. You know, at that time, I hadn't yet discovered the power of vulnerability. That was a lesson that I learned later. So instead, I took the failure, the embarrassment, the guilt, the shame. I took all of that and wore it like a badge of honor, or a badge of dishonor in my case. And what do you think that did to my business? It was awful. It was awful for my business, because my business was built on words, like I say, and representation, and being able to, you know, inspire and motivate and empower other people. And I didn't feel like that. So if I don't feel like that, how am I going to do it? How am I going to do it if I don't feel like that? So I had to pull up my big girl sparkly undies. That's what I had to do. Pull up my big girl sparkly undies and get on with it. And there were some days, I can tell you, I didn't want to get on with it. I really didn't. I just wanted to lay in bed, you know, literally take my daughter to school, come back home and spend the day in bed. That's what I wanted to do. And there were some days, I would admit, I hold my hand up, I did that. There were some days that I did that. But there were many other days where I pushed through as well. And that's really what I want to talk to you about in this series. Because when you feel less than, you feel low or under the weather, and you still feel like you need to push through, there's one thing that, despite everything, that if you don't have, it makes it really hard. And that is, if you don't have a routine or a strategy or something around your self-care and your self-preservation, it makes it really hard. Even if it's just having a best friend that you can ring up and cry on their shoulder. But you need to have some kind of self-care policy, because step number one, and this is one of the first resources I would lovingly share with you, is self-care is a success strategy. It's not selfish. It's not indulgent. It's not wallowing. It's not pity. It is a success strategy. Because when you learn, number one, to take care of yourself, you will find that just in that loving and nurturing of yourself, and you allow others to love and nurture you too, your confidence comes back. You're able to start expressing yourself in a way that's not damaging. Because when you're damaging yourself, when you're talking to yourself negatively, all you're doing is reinforcing all that toxicity that rages around your body and causes dis-ease. It causes discomfort. And it causes friction in your relationships. So point number one, step number one is to have a strategy, a success strategy around looking after yourself and allowing others to look after you. And you might think that's really strange. You might have tuned into this broadcast thinking, oh, hold on. I thought this was about words and messaging and communication and being able to bounce back. My business is going through a real, dip here. There's lots going on and my business isn't doing so well and cash flow is dried up, and she's talking to me about looking after myself. Yes, I am. You're going to find over the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about all kinds of things. You're going to hear some stuff that perhaps you don't expect to hear from a, branding and communication specialist. But I know with every ounce of my being that this stuff works. And my intention is for you to have a business that works and that is profitable and successful, but you can't enjoy it if you don't look after yourself. And unfortunately, that's a road that I have trodden way too many times to allow somebody else to walk that path without knowing the pitfalls. So I'm here to tell you what the pitfalls are. You don't look after yourself. You don't have that strategy in place for looking after yourself. Then you're not going to bounce back. No matter what's going on, you are not going to bounce back. It's tough, isn't it? So you want to learn how to, be the shining star online. Great. Look after yourself. Show up. Show up looking and feeling like you look after yourself. One of my greatest, I have two things actually, not just one, I have two. There are two things I like to say to people because I like to see the look on their face. Number one is I like to show them my mum. To show them, I don't have a picture of my mum now because I will show you. I like to show them a picture of my mum, and I like to tell them how old my mum is. My mum's actually going to be 82 in a few weeks' time. If it weren't for the fact that she has finally let the grey hairs come through, my mum does not look 82, all right? She's vibrant, she's active, she's still driving. My mum's younger than me. But she's 82. And that's a woman that, for as long as I can remember, she taught me the importance of self-care. So yeah, you're on Brand Builders TV, and we're talking about self-care because it matters. Because at 82, she's able to still have a vibrant and active life. And the other thing that I like to say to people, though I'm starting to feel with lockdown, maybe, it hasn't been as kind to me as perhaps it could be. But the other thing is I tell them how old I am. I'm 55, But I know I'm a youthful 55-year-old. Well, I'm 54 actually. I'm 55 in a few weeks, but 54. But I'm a youthful 54-year-old because I love humour. I love to laugh. I love to have fun, And those are the things, that's part of my self-care strategy. I also love nice things. So I'll often, before we became hermits, I would often be out in a nice space doing something nice for myself. That allows my creativity to flow. That allows me to write some of the stuff that I write. It create images. It allows me to really go internal and really dig deep and get into some of my clients' minds so that I can help them to bring out and draw out that uniqueness of them that has to be in their messaging. Now, can you imagine if I didn't have a self-care policy, would I be able to do that? I'm not saying I wouldn't. I probably would, because I'm a versatile kind of girl. But I probably wouldn't be able to do it as effectively. I probably wouldn't even enjoy it as much. One of the things when I'm working with clients, one of the things that we do is we go out into nature. And that's my way of helping them to explore their own self-care strategy. So they can start to develop and think, well, hold on. Me being able to express myself, or me being able to, create products and services isn't just about me being at home behind the computer. It's not just about me being in a coffee shop scribbling in my journal either. It's about being outside. It's about being fed, letting the sun feed its rays into you. It's about being able to genuinely feel the breeze of the cold air, being able to dip your toes in water even, hug a tree. But it's about really reconnecting with yourself and your source. So yeah, self-care was one of the things that really brought me back to myself. That was the first inkling of being able to rediscover myself and being able to represent my business in the way that I wanted it represented. So, tip number 1, get yourself a self-care strategy. Tip number 2, now this one's a bit more traditional. When things go wrong and we're caught up in here, because sometimes we get really caught up in here, don't we? We start thinking, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And we catastrophize. We dramatize. I can't do it. I don't know. Everybody knows better than me. Everyone's being paid more than me. Nobody wants me. Compare and despair sets in. Be honest. Is that you? Is it you? It's been me. And it's been me on more than one occasion. So if it's you, this is what you do. This is one of the things you can do. Get out a sheet of paper. Get a pen. And start from the earliest memory you have. The very earliest. It doesn't matter if your first memory was at 3 years old, 2 years old, or 10 years old. But start from the very earliest memory you have and write down every single thing, and I mean everything, that you've ever done that's made you feel good, that's been an achievement, that you've won an award for, that you've got a certificate for. Write it down. Even the stuff you think you can't remember. Yeah, write it down. Write it down. And I can guarantee that you probably won't get that far before you realize just how amazingly awesome you are. Because the truth is, they're just thoughts that we hold on to. Do you know how many thoughts we have a minute? Put it this way, more than we actually hold on to. We have more thoughts per minute than we actually hold on to. So why has the one that you've chosen to hold on to, why have you given that one, that negative one, more value, more credence, more status than the other thousands that went before it, or the other thousands that are going to come after it? Let it go. It's just a thought. It's just a thought. So all those thoughts of, oh my gosh, I'm no good. I'm not, I have no value. I have no worth. How true is that really? You created that thought. So how true is it? One of the things as coaches, trainers, mentors, in our kind of field, is we know the power of visualization. We know how strong our mind is. And it's like athletes. Athletes win the race. They see themselves winning that race long before they've actually won it. And you know what? The mind doesn't know any different. It doesn't know any different. Whether you actually ran the race or not, all it knows is that it won. It won. So if that's the case, if it knows that, you can do that with your mind. You just tell your mind. When you look at that list of all your achievements, and you think, crumbs, I'd forgotten that when I was 5 that I actually won the egg and spoon race at school. I remember how brilliant that felt. And the sack race. Just recreate that feeling now. It doesn't matter whether you did it at 5. You can feel like a winner right now in this moment because you won the egg and spoon race at school. Because you won the spelling bee, or you received an award 5 years ago. You were picked out as employee of the month, or it doesn't matter what it is. The person that you had your eye on for months finally paid you some attention, and next thing you know, you ended up going out. It doesn't matter. Whatever you've done that's made you feel successful, that's made you feel good and whole, write it down. And when you've written it down and you've exhausted your list, add another 10 because you've forgotten some. Self-care and acknowledgement of the greatness that you already have are 2 things that help you come back. When my marriage failed, it took me 6 months, I think, probably about 6 months to kind of be able to breathe and think, okay, you can't live like this. This perpetual sadness and despair cannot go on. There's going to be no bill paying around here with that. So what are we going to do? And I wrote that list. And I've had clients over the years write that list. And the power of that acknowledgement, not just in my own life, I've seen how it's changed people just like that. When they realize, oh my gosh, I'm brilliant. I'm brilliant. Yeah, you are. You certainly are. And finally, as we start to wrap up this first episode, I want you to think about, what do you want? Not what you think you want or what you'd like to have. I'm not even talking about in terms of visioning, all the stuff we talk about with visioning, and I'm talking about, what do you really want? Do you want to keep doing more of the same? Or do you want something different? Because the truth is, you can change your mind. You can be, do, have anything you want. Maybe, just maybe, it's just a thought, but just maybe you're not thinking big enough. It's not just about your work or your job, but just anything. Anything. It wasn't that long ago, somebody asked me a question. Gayle, if time, space and money was no limit, what would you be doing? And do you know what I said? I've got no idea. That was my answer. Oh my gosh, I've got no idea. Because whilst I'm good at visioning and creating vision and all that, I suddenly thought, we're always working towards something. But if time, space and money was no object right now, what would I be doing? I don't know. So I gave it some thought because I wanted to know, what am I really creating for myself and for my life? Because that's what I want to talk about. I don't want to be, I don't know. I don't want to be lost for words. I don't want to be stuck. I want to know. So I took myself off for a couple of days and, worked on finding out the answer to that question. I'm pleased to know that now I really know the answer to that question, and it's put a whole new spring in my step. So if you find you're dragging your heels, you don't have that spring in your step, ask yourself that question. What is it you really want? And it's not just about work either. It's not just about money. It's about you and your life. What are you doing with your life, with your time? If ever there was a year that has shown us how precious time and life is, or time and life are, this is the year. Maybe you need to create a new vision. I don't know. Because sometimes we can outgrow our vision, and there's nothing wrong with that. Create a new one. And I can guarantee that if things are going wrong and you're not sure and you're thinking and your mind right now is too stuck in the money, if your mind is stuck in the money, oh my gosh, I need to earn, my business isn't going so well, I need to do this, or maybe I need some more products, I haven't got enough clients. You do these three things we've spoken about today. Start looking after yourself, acknowledge who you truly are through your achievements, and think about what it is you really want. You will see how things will start to change. They'll start to move. They'll start to turn. And you know why that will happen? Because you will start to change, move and turn. You will start to create your own opportunities, because let's be honest, no one's going to rescue you, sweetheart. There's no heroes around here. You are the only hero. You're the one. You are the one. So as we come to the end of this first episode of Lost for Words, I really hope that you found some of these strategies useful. Of course, you can always connect with me. I'm on all my socials as Gayle Edwards, Brand You, Consultancy You on Twitter. Connect with me. Let me know what you're doing. Let's have a chat. Let's brainstorm even. I love a little brainstorm. We can organise a Zoomie. That's what we're all doing now, aren't we? Having a Zoomie. Zoom and coffee. So connect with me. Let me know how it's going for you. If you need some help, you need some support, you really genuinely don't know where to start, then the first place is to reach out and ask for help. So reach out. Because if I can't help you, one thing I do know is with my extensive network of people, communities, I know for a fact I'll know somebody that can. I know that for a fact. So don't sit there thinking, oh my gosh, it's all gone wrong. It's all gone wrong and I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. Because you do know where to start. If you're watching this, you know exactly where to start. So, what's in store for you next week? So, next week we're going to talk about the bounce back. Okay, so today we've kind of touched on when things go wrong and what you can do to start, feeling a bit more like yourself. We're going to talk about the actual bounce back next week. Okay, the real practical stuff when you're standing there. Well, nowadays when you're sitting there in front of a client on Zoom or a prospective client on Zoom, or you're thinking about, okay, where do I take this now? Gayle said that I've got to think bigger for my life. I've thought bigger for my life. Where do I take this? Where do I begin? That's what we're going to be talking about in next week's Lost for Words. Because I guarantee you, by the end of this 4-week series, you will not be lost for words anymore. You're going to have words in abundance. So on that note, thank you very much for listening. Please come and join me again next week, 2 o'clock, same time, same place, right here on Brand Builders TV. I'm really looking forward to seeing you then.
I hope that you've enjoyed the show today as much as we've enjoyed making it for you. If you've got anything out of this episode, please do tell someone else how they can subscribe to the Brand Builders TV channel at youtube.com/brandbuilderstv. Why not join us at our next Brand Builders Thinkubator, a global mastermind that we run every week to take away the loneliness of being in business on your own. For more information and to book your place, visit light.brandbuilders.club/Thinkubator. That's light.brandbuilders.club/Thinkubator. Until next time, be the ripple that you wish to see in the world, and we'll see you soon.